Hello, today I'm at Cruden Bay and the intention is to walk diagonally across the golf course to the furthest point of the bay and camp on the edge of the medieval battlefield. So before I head off, I'd just like to thank everybody who's subscribed in the last couple of weeks. Really appreciate it, completely blown away by the interest, the great comments I've had. Really pleased, so thank you very much. And if you enjoyed this video and you're not already subscribed, please click the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up and leave a comment, because it helps YouTube find me and the algorithm spreads the word, as it were, and gets me out. So I'd really appreciate that. But anyway, that being said, I think it's time to head across and get set up, because it's 1 o'clock. I started a bit late and I've got a couple of hours of daylight, so I better crack on. Okay, so that's me where I'm going to camp, and I haven't got a lot of time left. The sun is going down rapidly, so I want to make the most of the daylight to tell you why it is I've decided to camp here. Now around here there's lots of history. Just over there there's a pillbox. It was built in 1940 for an invasion that, well, never came. But 950 years earlier, thereabouts, an army stormed this beach and they invaded. The year was 1012, and the King of Denmark, Suan Fortbeard Haraldsson, was getting rather hacked off. He was hacked off because he tried a number of times to invade the kingdom of Alba, and had been repelled. He'd failed. So this time, once and for all, he was going to make sure that he became the King of Alba. He amassed a massive army and put in charge of it his 17-year-old son, Canute. Now Canute was already battle hardened and he was quite a tactician, and they set sail from Denmark and they came into this bay and they anchored all their boats. Now Hollywood would have you believe that they ran their boats up the beach and they stormed waving their axes, but it wasn't really the MO of the Danes. That wasn't how they did things. They were more tactical, and they would set up a bridgehead and reform all their troops there. They would replenish them, they would get fed, they would make sure they've got a battle plan, and they would set out from there. And this battle was no different. Now there was already an existing Danish settlement just up on this ridge here, and Canute decided he would use that as his bridgehead, and the boats came into the bay and they anchored up, and they all mustered up at this village, or this small settlement up here, where they'd already got food and water and supply chains in place. He mustered his army there and drew up his battle plans. Now at the same time, King Malcolm II had got wind of this Danish force coming in and had set up a camp on the other side of the golf course, basically where I parked my car. And he had a plan as well, and his plan was not to fully engage the Danes head on, because he'd done that before and he'd lost lots of troops. So he decided that he would harass and disrupt their supply lines, he would damage their food supplies and generally become a pain in their asses, and with the intention to get them to go back to their boats and go away. This might seem a strange plan, but it had also worked quite well for him in the past. So that was what he did, and for a couple of weeks he harassed them and he interrupted their supplies, but all through those 2 weeks more boats kept appearing and the battle strength got bigger and bigger. At the same time, the local troops from around this area were starting to get a bit hacked off. They did not want to do this guerrilla warfare type approach. They wanted full on you know, clash on the battlefield sort of stuff. And eventually Malcolm had to give in to the pressure from his troops, and the two sides, they clashed on the golf course, the big flat plain behind the beach, and the fighting was ferocious, and for 24 hours they clashed. And on the morning after the 24-hour period, the battlefield was just carnage. The Danes had lost most of their nobles, and many of the Scottish nobles were dead as well. Now, the two leaders, Malcolm and Canute, met up and they agreed to stop the fighting. Canute acknowledged that he'd lost most of his troops and agreed to leave and to never raid Scotland again. And in return, Malcolm agreed to give all of the people on the battlefield a full Christian burial and to build a chapel on the site of the battle in memory of everyone who died, and to dedicate it to St. Olaf, the patron saint of Denmark. Now, both sides did as they agreed. A chapel was built, which has since been lost to the sands. It was rebuilt, which was lost again, and I think they're on about the third or fourth chapel now in Cruden Bay. Now, Canute did as he said. He left, and he didn't raid Scotland again, but he decided to turn his attentions to England. He raided England, he built a big war party, and 4 years later he had taken London and was King of England. So, yeah, he didn't get Scotland, but he got England. Now, there's not much left that remains of the battlefield. It's been turfed over and has become a golf course, and there's nothing left of the chapel of St. Olaf other than the font, which was moved from each new iteration of the church and remains in the church on the hill, which is just over there. Now, the one lasting legacy of this Viking battle is the name of the village, because Cruden from Cruden Bay comes from the word for the slaughter of the Danes in Gaelic, and it was the battle cry of the Scots as they ran in, and it kind of means death of the Danes. So Cruden Bay is the bay of the death of the Danes. I hope you found that interesting, and I hope it wasn't too long. What I'm going to do now, before it goes completely dark, is get my tent set up. So there we go, that's me set up. Sun's going down quite rapidly. I reckon I've got about half hour, 40 minutes maximum of daylight. I'll get myself some food on then. I think I've got a nice little spot. I'm tucked in behind the hill here on my left, so hopefully I'll be sheltered from the wind. And I think it's going to be a cold one tonight. There's no clouds. Forecast to go down to freezing, so thankfully I've got my big 4-season OEX Leviathan with me. I'm in a single skin tent, so no doubt there'll be a lot of condensation, so I've got a microfiber cloth and I'll do the duty of giving it a wipe through the night. But I needed a little lightweight tent, and I've not used this one in a while, so this is my Tiger 2 from Nature Hike. It's 1.2 kilograms, little lightweight thing. I wouldn't want to use it all the time, but it's good to use it every now and again. So there we go. I'll just spin round and let you see what I'm going to be seeing out my front door. So that's pretty much the sun gone down, and I'm going to get myself some grub on. I've got boil in the bag homemade chilli and boil in the bag breads. And for afters I've got a Malteser hot chocolate with a good slug of Duppy Share rum. That should keep me nice and warm. I've set myself up for a fire for when it goes completely dark. That's all driftwood off the beach, so is this fish box that I'm sitting on. So I've got a nice little seat to sit in front of the fire, because tonight I plan on staying up a bit later and I'm going to try and get some star photography. I'm not going to go for video this time. I brought my big stills camera with me, and I'm going to see if I can get some nice astro photography. So fingers crossed for that, because that'll be good. So I think what I'll do is I'll bring you back when I've got this done. I think we're there. I think It's time to dish up. I think I'm going to use the table here. A seat is a table. And now, so I think first things first, we'll lift them two out. From there. And, turn that off. Pour that in the drink. Oh yeah. That into that. Okay. And then use the last bit of water in there to my bowler warm up slightly. Suck all the heat out of my dinner. I'll do. There we go. Oh, it's warm. Okay. Get the tea out of there. Oh, mate, chili con carne and nice hot bread. Get the packet out. So, there we go. So, steaming hot bread. Yay. Put that there. And as ever, turn the camera off because nobody needs to see me eat. Well, I've done some star shots. Obviously, I've had my dinner, which was great, and it's gone completely dark, and I've done some star shots. Hopefully, they've come out all right. But I am now. I'm going to get some kip. Temperatures dropped really outside, and it's getting frosty. And the inside of the tent is starting to freeze up because, of course, single skin tent's not the best choice. But hey, thought I'd give it a try. So I'm going to get into my bag and get my head down, and I'll see you all in the morning. See you in the morning. Well, good morning. Well, that wasn't the best night's sleep. It was slightly cold and very wet. Not what the forecast at all, but hey, that's forecast for you. I'm going to get packed up. It's about 6:10. Still, as you can see, pitch black. Get my tent packed away, get a bit of food, and then try and get across this golf course in the dark. At least in the dark I should be able to walk on the nice smooth grassy bits rather than the rough wet bits. So I'm going to hopefully get back to the car within an hour and get back home. And when I get home, I'll do a wash up and I'll tell you the highs and the lows of the camp. So I'll see you then. Okay, that's me home, warm and dry, and had a nice cup of coffee. So I'll tell you the pros and cons of this camp. Now, it was a great place to camp. Lovely view, and the sound of the sea was just awesome. I mean, at high tide I was probably about 4 foot from the sea, and it was just brilliant. You heard it in the night time recording I did. It really was good. I get left alone. It was a nice quiet spot. A lot of dog walkers on the beach, but nobody seemed to be bothered about me being there. There was no evidence of previous campers, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of bad feeling about your camping. So it was a really good spot. I really enjoyed it. The weather was great to a point, and I got some nice clear nights, and I got some pretty good star shots. Now, the cons, yeah, it was a bit damp, and the tent was the wrong tent. I mean, I should know better really, but a single skin tent at that sort of temperatures, you know, just above freezing and, you know, damp, worse for condensation, and it was just absolutely raining in the night. I didn't have a bivy bag, and my down bag was starting to get damp, so yeah, bad choice to tent. Also, there's something about these sign nylon tents that just, I don't know, the ground sheets being sign nylon are so slippy, and you know, I've got an inflatable airbed that you can't even lie on in that tent, but even with a foam mat I found myself sliding down the tent. I was on a very slight incline, and it was enough for me to be sliding off my bed mat in the night. So yeah, me and that tent, yeah, we're not getting on so great, but I should try it again in the summer as a lightweight backpacking tent and see if it works for a summer tent. But for now, I think I'm going to stick with my double skin tent. A bit heavier, but a bit more reliable. But you know, all in all, it was a pretty good camp. Now, what I intend to do is I shall put the What 3 Words location of where I camped in the description, and I'll also put a link to an Ordnance Survey route planner that I've produced. So if you want to go and walk, it'll show you where I parked, how I walked across the golf course, and where I was. So that's that trip. So all in all, a pretty good trip. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, and if you're not already subscribed, click the red button, because all these things help me get seen by the algorithm and helps me, you know, get to a wider audience. So that all being said, until the next one, I'll say ta-ra. Ta-ra a bit. Ta-ra.